Now, divorce is uncomfortable. And so some women, unfortunately, come in and they want the same exact lifestyle that they have with their spouse separately. It's going to be different.
Right.
And so they have to understand and recognize that and prepare themselves.
Well, hello, everyone. I am so excited to welcome you to another episode of the Thank Me Later show. With me, your host, Jini Thornton, where we help you master your money and transform your life. And you know what we're going to work on today? What we're going to get a little mastery of today? We're going to master some tough conversations. You know, we got to get used to having some difficult conversations as it relates to money and finances. And there's no better person in the world here to talk about divorce, prenups, postnups than my friend and colleague, Tanya Mitchell Graham. Tanya, thank you for being here with me today.
Thank you so much for having me.
I am so excited that you're here. So just to share a little bit of information about you, I know we have been colleagues 20 years. I think it was 20 years this year.
That's correct.
You have
2004.
2004. Can you believe that?
No.
That's crazy.
Seems like yesterday.
I know, right? But you have been practicing law for 32 years.
32 years. Yes, ma'am.
And your firm, the law offices of Tanya Mitchell Graham, TMG.
TMG PC.
TMG.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Where you focus on family law. That's all things divorce, child support. What other areas of law?
Divorce, child support, child custody.
Okay.
Contempt. Lots of custody.
A lot of custody stuff.
Lots of custody.
Okay.
And so we do postnups. We do prenups. And we counsel people about, the very difficult decision in coming to the conclusion that your marriage is over.
That it's not going to work. Mm-hmm. And it's interesting that you say that. One of the statistics says that 72% of couples reported they didn't fully understand the commitment involved in marriage before they tie the knot. 72%. So when you think about that statistic, because obviously we have to have these conversations,
right.
But I also started thinking about the people, who aren't married yet,
right.
Dating, been in a long-term relationship,
right.
But I'm also thinking about them too, to say, I don't want people just focused on what the exit looks like,
right?
But what
right.
could they be doing a little bit more proactively? Because if 72% didn't understand the commitment,
right.
What do you think? There's a couple key points that people just don't get when they think about this business and personal relationship now that they've formed.
Well, I think that particularly if you're single, you're not recognizing that you're now about to put your funds together. You have to make decisions together. Marriage is a partnership.
Yeah.
And so a lot of people have never even been in any kind of partnership before they get married. A lot of people, their parents weren't married, so they don't know what marriage looks like.
Right.
They don't know the commitment necessary. They don't know what to do after the honeymoon phase is over. They don't know what to do to stay focused when there are things that may distract you from your mate. And so they need to understand those things, and they also need to understand, the financial aspects. How are we going to pay bills?
Right.
How are we going to build wealth? How are we going to save for ourselves? How are we going to save for our children? And so a lot of people don't even have that conversation. It's just a matter of, you look good to me.
Right.
And you feeling me, I'm feeling you.
Right. And that honeymoon ends pretty quickly, too.
Oh, my God. When the bills start stacking up, the honeymoon is over.
Right. Yeah. You need a lot of love to get through that part, for sure.
You do. And commitment.
So let's start with this whole notion of prenups.
Yes.
First of all, I am an advocate of prenup. I just want to say that, because a lot of women, when I say that, they're like, what? Why do you say that? And maybe it's just my business acumen, because I understand the business part of marriage. So when you hear me say that a lot of people are like, wow, you're already planning for the end. Why are you doing that? When people say that, what is your response to that?
Well, it depends on the people, right? So if you're 20, you're 20 years old,
right.
And you're about to marry somebody 20 years old.
Right.
You all don't really have anything you're going to build together.
Right.
There's nothing to prenup.
Right. No asset.
No, nothing.
What y'all going to split? Your student loans? What y'all gonna split?
Right. Your debt, right? And
Right.
you're not really going to split that. So, I see the pros and cons, particularly for people who come into the marriage equally situated. If they're equally, to a point where they're young and they don't have anything, maybe they don't necessarily need a prenup then. But let's say I think a prenup is really mandatory for a second marriage in particular, or for any individuals that have acquired wealth, assets. I think they need to protect that. And so I am pro prenup, of course.
And what do you think about the concept of prenup for blended families too? Because I'm thinking
Absolutely.
that's definitely required.
Absolutely. That's what I'm saying.
Right.
Blended families, or people who are on their second or sometimes third
Right.
marriage, and you have children, and you want to make certain that the assets that you've built
Right.
go to your children, and that certain things that you continue to acquire go to your children, or wherever you want them to go.
And so what's a prenup's job?
Well, a prenup job is really to protect the assets. So what you're going to say in a prenup, typically, first of all, anything that you have before the marriage is yours. And that's really the law.
Right.
So you don't need a prenup to say that. But then you want to say, okay, whatever things I acquire with my separate income is going to remain my separate asset. That's imperative, because once you get married, depending on the state you're in, like here in Georgia, we're an equitable division state. Anything acquired after the marriage started is marital property.
So it gets split 50-50.
Not necessarily
Okay.
50-50, because we're an equitable division state, meaning what's fair. So
Okay.
you look at the contributions, but I will tell you, in court, usually it's going to be 50-50. But I can make arguments for, 65-35
Okay.
or 75-25, et cetera.
And that 5 or 10% can matter.
It's extremely important, especially the higher the number.
Right.
So you want to look at that. And then you can also say in your prenup, anything that I purchase is going to be separate. Anything that you purchase will be separate. We have to really intend to buy things together. And so you say in the prenup, okay, if we buy this house together, we're going to put both names on it. However, if I buy this house over here by myself, that will remain my separate property. And you also got to talk about debts. And then prenups also talk about things like, let's say if one party, cheats.
Right.
Aha.
Not the aha.
Aha. The rare
Right.
circumstance where somebody cheats.
Right.
So you may talk about what the non-cheating spouse will get if the other spouse cheats. Some people get like a bite of the apple in the prenup. You get that one time you can cheat. And,
Right. Right.
It's this penalty. And if it's the second time, well, then you've got to do these things. Then also some prenups, what they do is the longer the marriage, they may even decide that the prenup will no longer be active once they've been married like 20 years.
Gotcha.
We don't need it anymore.
I didn't realize that there was this cheating tax per se in the prenup.
Yeah, I've put that in a few.
Right.
Yes.
And so for those people who have no idea what a postnup is.
Oh, my goodness.
What does that mean? And when do you use that?
So a postnup is for, and we're using abbreviations. It's a postnuptial agreement.
Okay.
Okay, and it's a prenup is a premarital agreement. So postnuptial means just that. After you've been married, you've been in the marriage for a little while, and people typically enter into a postnup when they have contemplated divorce. Some people have actually filed for divorce, and then they've decided to reconcile. But when they do reconcile, they want to say, okay, this is how.
Here's some new terms.
Right. Here's how we're going to divide the assets and debts. Now, you can't discuss things like child custody in a prenup or a postnup.
Okay.
That's something that a judge decides. But you can talk, or child support either. But you can talk about, like I said, the assets and the debts, how we're going to split things, who gets what.
Now, when I've heard so many people say, more so women, well, if we're talking about all this prenup, postnup, you're already planning for my marriage to fail.
Mm-hmm.
So when you hear people say that, your response is what?
Well, it depends on the gentleman. If the gentleman is well established, he should have a right to protect the assets. I mean, this lady, I'm a lady, right? But if this gentleman has been working a period of years, like I have a case right now with a gentleman who has been working about 30 years. And he has built himself up the ladder where he has substantial income, substantial assets. He's been married 5 years. And so a lot of the things that he has have occurred actually during the marriage.
Okay.
But he was building for it all that time,
Right. Right.
So the fruition came in these last 5 years. And this lady who basically hasn't done anything to help him build, really just giving him a lot of stress.
Right. Right.
So now she wants half.
Right.
And so what you would do in a situation like that, if you're going to do a postnup.
Tanya, for people who are in a relationship, they're all booed up, all loved up, and they're like, wait a minute, though. I want to go to the next step, but I want to also protect what I've worked so hard for. But they're finding it a little challenging to have this discussion about this whole prenuptial agreement. What advice do you have for them?
Well, you have to be able, if you're going to spend the rest of your life with someone, you have to be able to be open and honest with them and talk to them about anything, including your fears. You fear that what you've worked so hard for may dissipate if we don't protect it adequately.
Right.
And then, you just got to have that conversation and assure the spouse that you're going to take care of them inside this document as well. Because you've got to make a prenup or a postnup fair.
That'll be fair.
And so you don't want somebody who's been married 15 years and they leave with the clothes on their back.
Right.
So you've got to make...
Because that's not fair.
It's absolutely not fair.
Right.
And that's the type of prenup that could be invalidated if it's deemed unfair.
Right.
So it's got to make provisions for what this person will have. Typically, the longer the marriage, the more, let's say if it's a lump sum or even a periodic spousal support, it increases with the number of years as well as the division of the assets. So, but you've got to just be able to be open and honest and let them know while you're trying to protect yourself, you're going to protect her too. In there, make sure that it's fair for both of you. But it's important. And I would think that any lady marrying a man of means should be understanding to that.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's business.
It is.
It's business. Yeah,
it is.
It's part of the business of the relationship.
That's right. And it's a partnership anyways. Time to start treating it like a business, at least in this respect.
Right. So in different cases, you've heard about a prenup being challenged if it was valid. And I've also heard very interesting stories about people the day of at the church signing the prenup.
Ooh, under duress.
Under duress. Literally, I've heard that story before, or several other stories. What is an appropriate time frame? Because obviously you don't want a prenup to be challenged.
Right.
We're considered invalid. So is it 6 months before the wedding, 3 months before the wedding?
Well, sometimes I don't get to control it.
Right.
It's based on when the client comes to me.
Okay.
Right?
But an ideal situation.
Well, this is what I do to kind of protect both sides. So whether it's 6 months or the day before, I have a provision in the prenups that I do where you have, after 1 year, that you recertify the terms of the prenup.
I didn't know that was possible.
Okay.
You can recertify.
Yes. I want to make certain that there won't be a challenge. And so a lot of people will say, well, I signed under duress.
Right.
So if you signed under duress, a year goes by, everything's great. And it's just a paragraph.
Right.
It's just saying I recertify the terms
of
the prenup. Usually guys can at least keep it going a year. Right. So, let's get that certification while we can. I put it on my calendar.
Right.
A year from the day.
Absolutely.
So they may sign it on, today, February 6th, and they get married on February 14th.
Okay.
Well, on the 6th, I've got it on my calendar next year, and I'm calling my guy up.
Right.
And I'm saying, hey, how you doing? I need to make an appointment to see you and your wife to sign this one-page certification.
So we can recertify.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
and I can understand why that really works as a strategy now, because you're really kind of taking off the table all the stress or duress.
Correct.
And because I'm like signing in the church. All these people are sitting out there.
But sometimes the client doesn't even contact you in enough time before it happens like that.
Right.
And that might be because the gentleman has had a difficult time broaching the subject of the prenup.
Right.
Now, I have done some prenups for some ladies too. Some of these ladies are ballers. Now.
Listen, come on now. Got all types of money
Some
now.
of the boss chicks, okay?
Yes, absolutely.
I had one lady who had, she was doing her second marriage, and she had all this money from the first marriage.
Right.
So she was trying to protect it. I did a prenup for her.
Absolutely. Yeah. But again, it's about protecting your legacy. It's about protecting your family.
Especially if you have children.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, that's business.
Right.
That's business.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we're going to transition now to one of the Thank Me Later show callers. We have someone who wants some advice from you, Tanya Mitchell Graham.
All right. Let's go.
Hi, I'm Katie from Indiana.
Okay.
I'm contemplating divorce, but I don't want to make an irrational decision. I've been married for 9 years, but the last 3 years have been really rough. I'm concerned because our finances are not blended. We file a joint tax return, so I know how much money he makes, but I'm not sure if he'll try to hide it or leave me out to dry. Where do I start? What do I do?
And I just recently talked about this on TikTok about divorce.
Yeah, we're going to share all your social
Yeah,
media
but
handles.
I
Y'all
just-
have got to follow Tanya Mitchell Graham on social media.
No, but I'm
Yes.
just telling you, I just recently talked about this. This is what I tell ladies in particular who, when the parties don't share the finances, or sometimes the husband may be the breadwinner and she may be a stay-at-home mom, or she may work part-time. So once you have made the decision to get the divorce, now see, that's not an easy decision.
For sure.
So once you made the decision to file divorce, you don't just run to the courthouse and file. No, ma'am, you've got to prepare, especially if you don't know the facts of your marriage, your financial facts. So what I tell the ladies to do is, first of all, you need to start gathering some of the evidence that we need. So sometimes you may be married and you don't have any accounts together, but there may be some kind of link. There may be something that comes in the mail. You need to know what banks your husband has business with, because we can do a set of interrogatories and requests to produce documents. But if he doesn't tell us all the banks, we don't know.
Right.
So before you file, you need to figure out, where does he bank? Where does his paycheck get deposited into?
Right.
Does he split that deposit? Does he have savings somewhere? Does he have an IRA? Does he have a 401k? You have to kind of snoop around a little bit, but still act like everything is good so that he is comfortable
Right.
with being himself and leaving his stuff around. You got to take some pictures of some stuff if you're unable to, get yourself a copy. And that tax return may show you a lot of things too. You've got to look beyond page 1 and 2 of the 1040. You got to kind of comb through those schedules, especially if you think your husband only works this W-2 job and lo and behold, he has a business. You're going to see maybe a Schedule C. You might see a Schedule SE on there.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And it may have a federal ID number. Ladies, if you file jointly, you better look at that tax return before you sign it too. I can't tell you how many times ladies getting divorced have never looked at the tax return.
Just signed it.
Yeah, they've just signed it, and a lot of the keys are in their husband has rental property they didn't know about. You're like, what is this depreciation? Yeah, that's all that property he has that you didn't know about. So you really have to gather as much information. She said they file jointly, so start with that tax return, get a copy of it, comb through it. If you don't have a copy, get a copy from whomever prepared the return and get the information. You may find that there's rental property, there's a business, whatever there is. You need to do that. Figure out the banks. Also, figure out some of the debts. I can't tell you how many people get divorced and don't realize that there's so much debt. But you know what? Some of that debt is because he's out taking out his paramour and he's using the credit card to do so. So if your husband has an Amex, when you go out with your husband, pay attention to what cards he uses.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
He's got an Amex. Okay. He's got a Capital One. Okay. What kind of card is this? Make a note of the different types of credit cards that he uses, because again, when you finally do file for divorce, he may not, provide. He may not,
Right.
But a lot of people lie in court. I'd like to say that people tell the truth. You
Stand
get
up in court, tell the stories.
the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, and then it's lies right after that.
Right.
So I say that she needs to gather that, and then she also needs to look at how much is it going to cost for you to live by yourself. Do you have children? Do you want to stay in the same school district? How much is that going to cost? How much money do you need to get out of this thing and maintain some semblance of the life that you have? You may not be able, now divorce is uncomfortable. And so some women, unfortunately, come in and they want the same exact lifestyle that they have with their spouse separately. It's going to be different.
Right.
And so they have to understand and recognize that and prepare themselves. Some ladies don't even know, okay, how much will medical insurance cost? Because the husband is providing that for her and the kids through his employer. And so if she hasn't been working, or if her job doesn't offer that, you need to go look at the marketplace and see how much this is going to cost, at least for you. Because a lot of times if you get to custody, then the father may have to pay
For
for
the
the
health
children,
insurance for
but
the
what
kids,
about you?
right.
And so you need to, kind of get your financial plan together too. And so I like ladies to do all of this before we even file the complaint for divorce.
For sure. Yeah. Prepare. There's a season of preparation is what I hear you saying.
It's a season, and then there's a little strategy thing we might do here and there, depending on the facts and circumstances.
Season and strategy. So let's share a couple of resources before we jump into this conversation about divorce. So when you are advising people how to educate themselves, kind of prepare, any particular websites, anything in particular you advise people to read, or
No, I just anything that they see, just any articles that they see and find about divorce and child support. Because I've been practicing so long, usually when somebody comes in, I've had that exact case, very close, that scenario, more than once.
Right.
And so I'm able to say, this is what can happen. I'll give them like 3 different possibilities of what may happen. They can do their research on their own, but most importantly, they have to be ready. What's very difficult with divorce is when the ladies come in and they get me going, and I got guns blazing.
Right.
I've issued subpoenas all over the place and all this discovery, and then they say, you know what, I want to reconcile.
right.
But let me tell you what guys do when they feel that heat.
Right.
They're like, it might be cheaper to keep them.
Right.
And they really, really do put a number on the lady. Some of these guys are very sincere in the reconciliation,
For sure.
and however, most are not. And so I can't tell you how many times I've started a divorce. The lady says, I want to reconcile. I won't even let these ladies dismiss their complaint now. I'm like, I'm going to contact the court, ask if we can stay this for 6 months, and then you call me back. If it's really going to be a reconciliation, then we will dismiss. Because a lot of times a gentleman will get his wife to dismiss the divorce, and whatever shenanigans was going on before the filing, boom, he's doing it again. And she's now condoned all of the information. Now, here's the other thing. If a lady has evidence of the adultery,
Okay.
now, very rarely do you actually catch your spouse in the act unless, someone's having a baby.
Right.
You don't really have the information, but there's
right.
certain evidence. Sometimes there may be text messages. If you've screenshot those, or if some woman has called you, record the conversation. In Georgia, it's not legal. If there's pictures that you see, save that evidence. I can't tell you how many times ladies come in and they get mad and they destroy this good. They destroy the evidence.
Right.
What? Come on now. I need the tools. Behind every great lawyer is an awesome client.
Right.
That's what makes us good.
That's a quotable. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a quotable. And having worked with you for so long, I understand what the preparation is and understanding how to empower an attorney to win.
Yes.
There's a lot of work that you have to do.
Right.
There's a lot of work that you have to do in order to essentially give you that layup.
Right.
Evidence. All the evidence,
Yeah.
all the documents that you need, the
Right.
requests, whatever that is, that's what it takes to quote unquote win in a divorce.
Right. And there are no real winners
Right.
in a divorce because a family is splitting, but you definitely, once the divorce is filed, you can continue to gather evidence for court.
Right.
It's not like a personal injury where, boom, the accident happened and all the evidence is before the filing. No. Once the divorce is filed, you can continue to gather evidence about behavior, what time is spent with the children, spending habits. You're filing for divorce, your husband's saying he's broke, but he just went to Aruba and he just went to Dubai with the boys down in South America.
Right. Air
with his fraternity.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
We need all the evidence and exact dates. Create a timeline. That's what I always tell people. Create a timeline for when things started going south. And to the extent possible, make that timeline as specific as possible. Judges hate when people say, oh, I think it was last summer. No, summer before last.
Right.
They want exact dates to the extent possible. So if you don't remember the exact day, the month and year, the season and the year, whatever you can get, and then anything you can figure out to find to substantiate that. That's how you really win.
Right. And when I hear you say all that, Tanya, I'm also just thinking about the more prepared you are, it has to impact the cost of the divorce too.
Yes.
Yeah.
I like clients to definitely come in with a lot of that information. Clients can help keep the costs down on a divorce when we do the discovery process and we get the documents in. And sometimes, we may ask for 3 to 5 years of bank statements and all this, credit card statements, to the extent that the client can look through those.
Right.
They can help the attorney. Otherwise, I'm going to look through line by line at my hourly rate. But you can look through and you can tell me faster than I will know what looks unusual, who is this person he's sending the Cash App to. This is not a family member or a friend or an associate. You will recognize that before the lawyer. And so if clients are actively involved in their case, every aspect, they absolutely help kind of keep the cost down. Now, it's going to be an expensive process, especially depending on how he's fighting.
What's expensive on average? Just on average. like low to high. Give it in your experience. Low end.
No one's going to get divorced.
Yeah, cheaper to keep her and him. Cheaper to keep him.
I mean, you might come in the door paying a $15,000 retainer.
Okay, that's just the start. Retainer just means that's just to get engaged and get going.
That is the deposit.
That's just the deposit. Okay, so on average.
So let's say we have a typical divorce that may last 8 months to a year.
Yeah, people don't realize it takes that long.
Oh, it takes longer.
Yes.
I'm talking about one that has been fairly, quote, kind of uncontested.
Sure.
And in this scenario, they settled before going to trial.
Okay.
They may spend
Say it.
they may spend $50,000 to $100,000.
Easy.
Yes,
Yeah.
Easy.
Yeah.
Now, if we have a custody battle.
Okay. Oh no. Okay.
Okay.
So we're saying 50 to 100,000, and we're not even fighting.
Not fighting. No.
Right.
What we're doing in that period is really gathering all the evidence, because sometimes people will produce documents which will cause me to have to issue a few subpoenas.
Okay.
I might have to take a deposition or two.
Right.
And then most courts require us to participate in mediation prior to a final trial.
Okay.
And so in the scenario I'm talking about, there has not been what's called a temporary hearing to set up things on a temporary basis, because you could spend that 50 to 100 just starting and having a temporary hearing. I'm talking about one where the parties, they live together, they're in separate rooms, nobody's really fighting, but we are really getting to the money, seeing where that is, and then trying to figure out the parenting time. And we've done the discovery, we've gone to mediation, we've either come to an agreement at mediation or prior to a trial.
Right.
That's your 50 to 100.
Yeah. Well,
If we're fighting over kids, we're going to go above $100,000.
right.
That may include a guardian ad litem.
That means a lawyer for the child.
Right.
Yeah.
To conduct an investigation.
The child gets their own lawyer too. Yes.
Yes. And the guardian ad litem, what they do is they conduct an investigation of both parents. They'll visit the schools. They'll talk to doctors. They'll talk to any witnesses that both sides provide. You know how that goes.
Right.
Yes.
Right. So when I hear you say that, all I keep saying to my head is freedom is not free.
No, not at all. If they had you can pay $25 for a marriage license?
Right. Right.
If they had maybe a little mandatory, I think they should have a mandatory counseling.
Agreed.
And some kind of mandatory class on how to share your finances or something. I think that the divorce rate would go down, because most people divorce over infidelity and finances.
And when you
or both.
So, not both. So when people are getting divorced about money, what are they fighting about? What's the issue?
One party is hiding their money. It's kind of weird lately. It's been a lot of the cases I've been having lately, I guess I can't really say that, but ladies have money, right? And sometimes the guys, this is a new breed of man that I've never encountered. They want to spend the ladies' money.
Okay.
Right? So he may be hiding his money. He may be self-employed, but he's telling his wife that he really doesn't make a lot of money. But we know she makes a lot of money just because of, who she is. She might be a Jini Thornton, for instance. So we know she's okay. Right. But the guy, he's got this business, but he's hiding it. And the way that he hides it is he all his personal expenses he pays for with his business credit card, and he pays the business credit card with the business bank account.
Right.
So in the personal account, you see the $2,000 a month he says that he really earns.
Right.
Right. So, it can. There's a lot of snags, and so if we've got a guardian ad litem, there may be a parental fitness that's done. There may be a motion for a psych eval on the parent.
Right.
So we can get in excess of $200,000. I mean, the most expensive divorce that I have been involved in was over $300,000 in fees, and that lasted. And it only lasted about 18 months.
I'm struggling here. I'm like, I cannot imagine
About
spending $350,000
Mm-hmm.
to break up.
Yes.
To break up.
Maybe the marriage license should cost $1,000. Maybe.
Wow.
And so in that particular case, the most expensive case I've had, they were fighting over lots of assets.
Okay. Clearly, there had to be a lot of money at stake, for sure.
They were fighting over custody. So we had a guardian ad litem. So, you spend money. A guardian ad litem is an attorney.
Right.
So that's so it's at least 3 attorneys. In most big asset cases, there's at least 2. I'll have myself and an associate attorney in my office. It's one firm, but it's 2 lawyers.
Right.
Some people have 2 different law firms.
Working at the same time. Right. Whew, so just as someone who's been married a long time, I'm just like,
God bless you.
I know, right? I feel like I have dodged all types of bullets.
Married a great man.
You know what, though? And thank you for saying that, but that actually is what it is.
Yes.
I think I see way too many people marrying people that they are not compatible with.
Right.
They are not compatible with them at all.
Right.
And so I see my husband off camera. He was handing you his credit card. They're paying you for that.
He paid me before I came.
Oh, that's funny. But compatibility is so important.
Yes.
Compatibility and communication. And we have to get on the same page about money immediately in the relationship.
It's stressful.
It's stressful. And you have to talk about it. You have to deal with it from the beginning.
Even when there are, let's say people have a routine, but then there's an unexpected expense.
Right.
That can just derail a lot of things, particularly when you think that if you don't keep your finances together and you thinking your spouse is saving this and saving that and then they don't have, you're like, okay, well, what are you doing with your money then?
Right. And I have seen that a lot, Tanya, as we get ready to wrap. I've just seen so many people who have been in marriages for a long time and have no clue about what the other person has or does not have or what they are doing or not doing financially. And I'm thinking, how is that possible? You all are partners.
Can I say something?
Please,
here?
please do. Please do.
It's imperative if one spouse, if the house you live in, you should know what mortgage company holds your mortgage.
You got people getting divorced who don't even know that.
Oh, lots of people. Let's say the house is in, and the one case I had a couple of weeks ago, the mortgage was only in the wife's name. Husband didn't know how much was owed, how much was put down, what the payments are. Come to find out, the lady had the doggone thing in deferment for over a year. Now we're trying to sell the house, and it's kind of upside down. And then I have women all the time where the house is in the husband's name. They don't know the name of the mortgage company. So when you're in that partnership and everything's good, try to get some information that just keeps yourself abreast of what's happening in your own life. You should know your mortgage company. What if something happens to your spouse?
Yes. You don't have to get divorced. They could get sick. They don't even have to pass away.
Right. Who do you contact if you don't know? You don't know who's the homeowners association. You don't know who's the insurance company. You don't know who the insurance company is for your vehicle.
Right.
It's in the glove compartment.
Jeez. Okay,
Man, I'm having flashbacks.
I was going to say, you're making me fair to myself. You're making me fair to myself over here. Well, Tanya, it's always a pleasure to talk to you. And I know this is a difficult conversation, but we have to get used to having difficult conversations.
We do.
And it has to get normal. We can't run from them because if we dealt with this head on,
right,
we could probably even prevent divorce potentially.
I think so.
Yeah.
I think so.
Let's deal with it head on.
I think so.
Head
That's
on.
a great idea.
So
thank you for what you do.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much for being here. So I wanted to ask you this question as we wrap up. So I want you to finish this sentence for me.
Okay.
So I want to know your thank me later financial tip. Finish the sentence. If you blank, you will thank me later. Fill in the blank. If you what? You will thank me later.
If you figure out what all your finances are, you will thank me later. Know your credit card companies and your mortgage companies and all of the information you need. Who holds your car note?
Right.
Know that now.
Okay.
If you do that, you'll thank me later.
Okay. And y'all need to know that. You know what I mean? There's no excuse. If you're an adult, you need to know that. Single, married, you need to know that, people. You definitely need to know
There's
that.
so many people who don't. So there are some people who come from a family where one spouse took care of it and they want to live just like their parents did.
Right.
You know,
That time is over.
it is gone.
Yeah, that time is over. That time is gone. Any tips, any other quick advice you want to give folks who are kind of in a complicated
Well,
situation right now?
I would just say pay attention. And if something doesn't seem right, it probably isn't right. And so save the information for later. You may need it. Now, on that one, you may thank me later.
Well, look, we're thanking you right now. And of course, I want people to be able to engage with you on social media or website. Please share all that information with our viewers.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
On all platforms, I am at TMGESQ, like Tanya Mitchell Graham Esquire, but it's just TMGESQ. And so what I've been doing lately on TikTok, I've been sharing some tips for the ladies. I do have a business Instagram where I share some tips for the fellas. Because most people know me as a father's rights attorney, and I'm still that. But I represent a lot of ladies too, and that's at TMGPC.
Okay, at TMGPC. So everybody, please make sure that you engage with Tanya Mitchell Graham. Again, I've had the honor of working with her for 20 years, and I've just admired the work that you've done. And honey, listen, I've told my husband, I don't plan on getting divorced, but if I do, you're my lawyer. You can't be his lawyer. Tanya's in the background saying, no, he wants to hire you. We'll negotiate.
We're going to negotiate.
Tanya,
There will be
where's the loyalty?
I'm very loyal. You'll thank me later.
Where is the loyalty here? You are too crazy. Please make sure that you engage with us on social media at TML Money, with me directly at Jini Thornton. And you can catch other episodes of this amazing show at thankmelatershow.com. All right. So thank you all for tuning in to the Thank Me Later show, where we help you master your money and transform your life. We'll see you next episode.